Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Wallaby Wonders if you're watching on Rumble, and welcome to Delphi Dawn channel if you're watching on YouTube. Just here to do a quick I Ching reading on the question, should I stay or should I go? Which is the question that I got cleared with the sage before I started. I've cleared which books we're going to use, and I might chuck in a couple of Mahjong cards as well, just to add a bit of a few more clues. So we'll throw some coins for going and staying. Now obviously you clicked on this title for a reason. The going and staying could apply to anything you like. It could apply to going to the shop today. It could apply to a major life decision, a love relationship, a course, a place, anything you like. Could be a contract. It could be, I don't know, whatever it was that first came into your head when you clicked on this video. The fact that you're asking the question in the first place, or that the question has come up even if you didn't really want to ask it, but that for some reason it needs to be asked, says something in of itself. Like if it was a clear-cut decision, you wouldn't be equivocating. So obviously there's benefits either way, or perceived benefits either way. So we will do, okay, shall we do going first or staying first? So I'll do two possible outcomes, and I think we're looking at it not so much as a predictive thing, but more of an energy thing. Like, what are the likely energetic splits? You know, like we'll have more of energy on this side for going, or this energy for staying, or whatever. Okay, so shall we do Dear Sage, also known as the Most High, the Divine, the Cosmos, any name that you might want to use for the most, the highest principle of goodness that you are familiar with. Please, for the audience, let's now talk about whether we should do going or staying first. Okay, heads is going and tails is staying. Okay, so we've got three heads first, so definitely talk about what kind of energy is in store for it. If the viewer goes in the should I stay or should I go now, because that is the song that came into my head. Should I stay or should I go now? So if the viewer decides to go, to cut the contract, to leave, to whatever it is that the going and staying is about, that's not an obvious decision, because if it was an obvious decision you would have made it already. Okay, if they choose to go, and I'll put it on the right hand side of the page. Okay, two heads, which is a yin line. If the viewer chooses to go now, again, same. Should the viewer go or stay? Same again. So this is for going. If the viewer chooses to go, the likely energy that will carry, the likely direction, outcome, what will that entail? What will they need to be aware of? What's the likely outcome of a decision to go at this point? Okay. There tends to be pros and cons in both choices when you're stuck at a should I go or should I stay state of mind. So I imagine we'll see pros and cons on both sides. So this is for going. So we have hexagram 35, which is usually called progressing or something like that. And it's got a moving line at the 5th place. So it will change to hexagram 12. That's only one moving line. I'll just draw it up for you and show you. Okay. Okay. So this is what we got. Hexagram 35 with a yin moving line in the ruling place there at the 5th place, and it changes to hexagram 12. All right, so progress basically at first and then stagnation later. We didn't put a time frame on this. I should have put a time frame, but anyway, I guess it's until you ask the next question. All right, so hexagram 35. So you're receiving rewards and help in hexagram 35. It's actually very smooth progress. So this is if you go, there's going to be very smooth progress at first, but then what happens at line 5? Something good. I think it's something very good. But then it changes to hexagram 12, which is about stagnation. Yeah, so it's a bit of come see, come sa, isn't it? All right, so we have the Sam Reifler interpretation. This is from the 70s, this book, but it's such a classic. This is the one the sage wanted me to use today for this. Okay, so this interpretation calls hexagram 35 advanced. So this is what happens if you choose to go. The sun shines above the earth. The superior man polishes his brilliance. He secures civil tranquility and is rewarded with many horses. He is interviewed 3 times a day. Improvement. So initially at least there's an improvement. Gets really warm here with all the candles. This hexagram represents the sun rising over the earth. The sun gives light while it destroys itself. The dark, receptive to the earth, turns the sun's energy into life and growth. Two people are involved in this hexagram. One is passionate, energetic, prophetic, and self-destructive. The other is impressionable, passive, logical, and blooming. Most likely, you, dear viewer, are the latter, the passive half of the pair. The passionate partner is usually not the type of person who consults the I Ching oracle. Right. So just the mere fact that you've stopped on the reading shows that you're more likely to be an intuitive kind of receptive to wisdom kind of a person. Okay. Search out the one who is your alter ego, your negative self, your opposite pole, the yang to your yin. Acknowledge that force behind what you do comes from him. Working together, you will make important advances and new discoveries. I'm just getting the wind beneath my wings kind of song. Like the it's like the right hand man, but it's not a man. It's a yin energy, so it's like the It's maybe, like the president's wife in a way, but the president's wife actually comes up with a lot of the good intuitions or ideas or something, or helps provide the base for the other person to shine. A support role. But I mean, that's just an analogy. It could be anything. So keep in mind that the relationship between Earth and the Sun set aside all petty considerations, superficial judgments based on selfish values, love without reservation, the sun that turns your darkness to light. If you do happen to be the passionate half of the pair, if for some reason you've stumbled across this and you do happen to be the passionate half of this pair, the radiant sun, nothing said in this oracle can make any impression on you. Your demon is too strong. The advancement of this hexagram will not come from either half of the pair alone. It is a result of the interaction between them. So that was the Arthur bit. So here's the Karma bit, which is about your more personal relationships. So this is how it will affect your personal relationships. You and friend are well matched. Your characters nearly complement each other. Arthur section. Together you have the potential for creative, evolving and extended relationship. The only problems you may encounter result from your clinging to the stale concepts of a destructive tradition. The passionate partner, the sun, and the passive partner, the earth, need not be man and woman respectively. If the passionate one, the yang force in the relationship, is the woman and the passive yin partner is the man, then the man is likely to feel that his role is not normal. Inverted commas. False pride will cause anxiety and conflict. He must forget the generally accepted concepts of roles and accept and appreciate his own character. He must base the relationship on that, not on his ideas, actually his culture's ideas, of what the relationship should be. If the passionate one is the man and the passive one is the woman, then the danger is that the woman may impose her political principles on the relationship. Although she feels a natural resentment at society's discrimination against women generally, she must also accept and appreciate her own personal feminine traits of passivity and receptiveness, which are a part of her own character and not solely due to her gender. Moksha. So this is more like the meta or the spiritual or the greater parasocial relationships or something like that. You must search for the one who will enlighten you. Okay, so if you're going to leave, you're going to have to search for the one who will enlighten you. You're going to need a guide of some sort. He's not a guru, not a priest, not a teacher, nor a savant. He does not intend to enlighten you, and in fact, does not intend anything. He burns brightly with passion and without purpose. He is as lost without you as you are without him. His light dies if you do not reflect it. Your life is dark without his light. Okay, so you need a partner, an appropriate balancing energy if you're going to do this move by the looks. Like somebody to work with or something. Whether it be a job or a romance or a travelling companion, whatever it may be, you're going to need someone who has the equal opposite energy to you, a good complement, a match, but in the opposite attracts kind of a way of a match. Somebody who has strengths where you're weak and vice versa, so that you can help balance each other out and help each other attain goals. So, you get 6 in the 5th place. which is a very positive line. It says, guilt disappears. Do not let success concern you. Auspicious if you advance. Improvement, no matter what you do. So initially just moving, just because you're moving is kind of, or if you're going or leaving or breaking the contract or whatever it may be, should I go or should I stay? Initially it's good just because you get moving. So it doesn't really matter which direction you go. It's just that I think the movement is good. Okay, so I say that it goes auspicious if you advance. Improvement no matter what you do. And it says here, you live in complete accord with the creative forces in your life. You advance through the combination of your receptive personality with someone else's passionate personality. Your progress depends on both of you for its continuing existence and for its direction. Since the direction of your progress is dependent on another as well as yourself, it may not be exactly what you had envisioned. Okay, so you might have to compromise and to accommodate aspects of the other person's dream or creative inclination, whatever it is. So it may not be exactly what you envisioned, but it is the best way, the right way, and the only way for you. Any regrets you have are based only on illusions. They will soon disappear. Well, that's fairly positive. That's straight up a really, really positive hexagram. But then it changes to number 12, which is not so much fun. But before we do number 12, we'll just read from the Carol Anthony version, which the sage also advised me to read. This is one of my favourite books in the world. If I had money to give books away, I'd buy this for lots of people. It's such a beautifully written book. And I can't show you the cover because I've read the cover off of it. I've also, the first few pages I've read off of it. Anyway. So it's got a beautiful cover if it was there. Hexagram 35, progress. Brighten your bright virtue. The goal is to follow the path. Okay. The superior man brightens his bright virtue. The image of the sun rising over the earth indicates a time of progress. Such a time also brings into the open careless habits or practices which impede or block progress or which threaten our gains. Receiving the hexagram affirms that we are making progress even though it may elude our direct observation. So you might be making hidden progress. Receiving it also reminds us of the basic principles on which progress is founded so that we can use the time of progress wisely. In particular, we should avoid sitting on our laurels and luxuriating in our achievements. Instead, it is a time to brighten our bright virtue. Progress is not the result of working for progress as a goal in itself or towards comfortable and personally desirable objectives. Rather, it is the result of working on being consistent and true to one's principles, and of serving that which is higher. We cultivate an attitude of inner independence by focusing only what is essential and correct. Focusing on only what is essential and correct. We fail to serve the good when achieving some small progress. We forget about continuing humbly on our path and only indulge ourselves in the comfort of the moment. Receiving individual lines in the hexagrams tells us to search for specific attitudes which block progress or threaten the progress which already gained. Progress is blocked when we harbour viewpoints contrary to those of the sage. An enlightened ruler and an obedient servant. This line reminds us that progress is the consequence of serving the higher power obediently and following the true and the good selflessly without thought of reward. So you only progress so long as your inner attitude remains correct. That's what I'm getting there. This means that we must take care not to luxuriate in having an influence or use affection and respect we have gained to indulge in desires. To truly help others and to solidify our gains, we must remain selfless. Thus, our work remains at the disposal of the ruler. Among the more subtly decadent attitudes is our tendency to be goal-oriented. For example, we focus on our goal to rescue or to reunite with someone. Then we fasten on any idea which seems to advance progress in some measurable or dramatic way. Once we become goal-oriented, we tend to intervene in affairs to make sure they are moving in the direction with the momentum we desire. Or we intervene to prevent others from proceeding in what we perceive as the wrong direction. A goal-oriented person is like a particular type of horse known as a barn rat. This horse is so emotionally attached to the barn that whenever the rider points it in any other direction, he walks slower and slower. Then when it is turned back towards the barn, it could hardly be restrained from running. When we are goal-oriented, we distrust the willingness or ability of the sage to use diverse circumstances creatively. Just as in a sailboat, one tacks along different angles to make progress against the wind, the creative uses all events and directions to help make things work. We slip into goal-oriented habits whenever we allow our ego to engage in any kind of measuring to see how far we have progressed or have failed to progress. This in turn initiates doubt and effort, by which we lose our centre of gravity and the inner independence which brings about progress. Time is the vehicle of the creative power. Time alone heals. When we allow our ego to resist the time required to make progress because of its fears and doubts, we become locked in the vortex of the dark force and we lose the power for good which accompanies an open mind. The dark force is potent and dynamic. When we see someone's attitude is hopelessly stuck, we darken their light and lock them into negative patterns of resistance. Similarly, we block ourselves when we doubt that we are able to do something. Doubt disables our ability to mobilize the unknown to help us and binds our hidden abilities. We allow the cosmic outcome to emerge when we cease striving to shape the direction of change through conflict and leverage. When we trust that the correct way will show itself, we experience a dramatic change in circumstances. This change is described in the fifth line of Splitting Apart hexagram 23 as a shoal of fishes. The moment we relate correctly, splitting apart ends, and the entire school of fishes wheels and changes direction simultaneously. So yeah, that's the power of letting it, I guess. Okay, so you've got moving line 5, which says, take not gain and loss to heart. Although it seems that we have failed to take advantage of a good opportunity to influence the situation, we should not mind this. Although it is not obvious, progress has been made by keeping ourselves detached and free. If we view each moment as an opportunity to influence, we become too ambitious and goal-oriented. We should let the moments flow and keep alert, then everything will happen as it should. So it seems to be talking about that if you go, it will all flow pretty quickly and pretty easily, so long as you find the right person to work with and stay in balance with them. And there will be some gains and losses, but not to worry about it too much or be too goal-oriented, and then everything will happen as it should. So that's pretty good. So it starts out like that, but then it turns to hexagram 12, which is not such a fun hexagram. But that often happens in the Ching, because things tend to go to... It's like you can only go so far north until you start going south again. So when a yin energy gets to its extreme, it turns to the opposite. And then same with the yang. Hello, Miss Pussycat. Someone's come to sit in on the reading. Yes. Him and me. Alright, so hexagram 12, stagnation. So I've got this book in front of me, so I might as well read it from here. No progress. So you go from progress to no progress. So it's like at first you make a lot of progress, and then you get to this sort of stagnation point. So yeah, a lot of rapid progress at first, and it's all going really well, and then you get standstill. And now none of these situations are permanent. It always changes after a while. But that's the likely kind of progression you're going to get from progress to no progress. The hexagram refers to dealing with difficult and obdurate situations in which there appears to be no progress. The hexagram instructs us on how to relate to such times of darkness and difficulty. When we perceive that there is no progress in our general situation, tension and inner conflict arise. The remedy is to disengage from looking at the situation. We abandon neither our principles nor our goals. When we have re-established inner calm, the clarity needed to put things into perspective becomes possible. Until then, nothing can be done. The entire thrust of the hexagram is to adjust one's attitude, since adapting in the correct way can cause the situation to change. If standstill has its roots in defective ideas, following the counsel given in the hexagram will counteract the bad effects of those ideas. The time of standstill refers to the time prior to becoming a student of the Yi Jing and all the ideas we had at that time about the way things work. Receiving this hexagram is meant to make us re-examine ideas and values we have taken for granted as correct. We are meant to realize that the wheel of fate is stuck in the mud and that progress is stalled because we still cling to ideas that the I Ching regards as decadent. Excuse me. So, receiving this hexagram also refers to times when we are stopped at a crossroads, wondering which direction or attitude will lead to progress. It is important not to linger at the crossroads of self-conflict or to search for precisely the correct attitude, for the solution is not to be found in this way. In all striving, the ego attempts to find some way to make things work in order to stay in control. It is better to detach from looking at the situation and go on our way, taking care not to engage either in hope or hopelessness. If we can accept that we are meant to patiently persevere, then by itself, fate will indicate the way. Right. So it's almost like you make quick progress into a situation which is fairly stagnant. Or that's the potentiality of it anyway. Or there's a good time at first and lots of rewards and all of that, but then some kind of decadence or some wrong idea or some stagnant, like maybe you're in a situation where the influences are around you are not really great influences. They might be people who are just more interested in superficial values or something like that. Let's see what this other hexagram, the other interpretation says about hexagram 12. So this is the second part to the story in chronological order, because the hexagram 35 comes first, so that's why we have progress at first and then stagnation, because the stagnation is the second hexagram. So what's it called in this one? In this interpretation, it calls it disjunction. That's why I really like reading two interpretations at once, because stagnation and disjunction, you sort of think about, oh, right, that's how disjunction can cause stagnation, or, just the subtle differences in the way that they explain it can be really helpful. Okay, so oracle. Heaven and earth separate from each other. There is a lack of understanding between men. The great ones have gone and the small ones have come. The superior man conceals his true qualities and avoids calamities. He shuns gainful employment. Difficulty to keeping to your course. Okay, so basically you end up at some point in the journey, you end up in this situation where you're surrounded by people with petty ideas, or what you need to conceal yourself. Excuse me. Arthur. So this is just the general overview, I guess. You live in a world informed by petty principles, greed and possessiveness, selfishness and resentment, competition and hatred, etc. Money is the treasured excrement, the useless waste of this situation. Stay away from it. In your particular situation, the vulgar, materialistic corruption is so far-reaching that you can be drawn into it inadvertently by acceptance of money from anyone. So it's hard to get an ethical job. So that's often the situation if you like a town that has a lot of crime in it or something like that. It's very hard to accept money from anyone. It's all tainted. In this hexagram, the trigrams of heaven and earth draw away from each other. If you are not a saint or a monk practicing moksha, hitched to receding heaven, then you are here on earth, a madman amongst others delighting in their own effluvium. So it's a situation of real decadence and shallowness. Your situation is without the traditional restraints of charity or humane social ideals for the future. Those with whom you're involved could be vicious. If you have Any unselfish principles, restrain yourself from advancing them. They can do no good. They will be completely misunderstood and bring not the faintest ray of light to others. Content yourself with holding those principles intact within yourself. So just staying true to your principles is going to be a big enough job on its own without trying to help anyone else in this disjunction situation. The situation of decadence and materialistic, vulgar corruption and greed. So content yourself with holding to those principles intact within yourself. You will find that alone difficult enough to do. Karma. Okay. Only in the loose terms of a confused language could your relationship with friend be called love. A love relationship. You conflict in pettiness, you unite in pettiness, your pains are petty, and so are your pleasures. Small and mean, if not demanding, resentful of each other, you have completely lost track of the basis of your relationship. And then moksha. This is the hexagram of Saint Simeon of... I don't even know that name. Stylites? Let's say it's Stylites. Forgive me if I haven't said it correctly. Saint Simeon, the pillar saint who lived for 35 years on a small platform atop a pillar in the Syrian desert. In a culture where the very language is often confused and righteous acts are always misunderstood, only such an absurd life as Saint Simeon's recognized as being spiritually inspired. Materialism is so desperately all-consuming in your world that only a life of asceticism bordering on the absurd can free you for your spiritual path. So it seems like there's a great temptation all around you at some point, or possibly a relationship that started out well goes sour, potentially. I mean, it's not necessarily the case, but I guess that's a warning not to end up in some situation that is like that. Or maybe it's even unavoidable. It might be just the way a lot of people in the world are going at the moment. And irregardless of which direction you go in, you're going to have to deal with some of these shallow, greedy, materialistic, vulgar people who have no interest in their own spiritual development and just stuffing their faces and their wallets and not caring for their fellow citizens or the environment or the animals or any, whatever. For culture, for just, you name it, just not caring. I mean, hexagram 12 is very much that situation of just like people just being debauched and consuming more than they need to, more than is healthy, of whatever it is that takes their fancy. So that's the go. It starts off very positive and creative and happy and wonderful, but then later on there's this situation that, and it's not necessarily to say that is going to be like that forever. I mean, nothing is in the Book of Changes forever, but I guess it's saying it may start out really good and you may have a really good period, but then there's it's like this hangover period almost, or just another, it's just like there's spring and there's winter. You go through a sort of dark time, or you come to a place that's stagnant, or you become stagnant within yourself because you've been too decadent, or whatever it may be. So, that's interesting, isn't it? Let's pull a couple of Mahjong cards for going. Let's say 3. We'll pull no, 2. We'll make it 2 because we've got 2 hexagrams. Okay. And we'll take them upright, please. 2 significant energies associated with going. For should I say or should I go? Yes, Prissy. Yes, it's alright. Oh, it's getting warm in here. It's very warm with the cat on the lap. Okay, 2 cards for energy of going. We'll take them as upright, whichever way they come out. Okay, so fire and duck. Well, fire is like action and duck is like partnership, I believe. Let's have a little look here. So duck. I don't read these cards very often. Duck card. I'm pretty sure duck's just all about partnership, which makes, oh yes, here we go. Here, 2 of bamboo, duck. Fidelity and partnership. So this is the energy that comes with going. The Chinese believed that the pair of ducks, which totally ties in with what it was saying in that hexagram 35 about finding your correct counterpart that matches your energy. If you're yin, you need the correct yang to work with, and vice versa. So, the Chinese believed that a pair of ducks remain together for life. So the symbolism of the duck is an enduring partnership. It is the ideal response for anyone inquiring about their romantic prospects. Whether in questions of business, it represents firm partnership. The significance of the duck will be enhanced if the cards east representing the querent and west the partner also appear. Positive aspects. The duck is virtually always positive in what it has to reveal. In the east, in any position, it represents caring personality combined with the toad or 3 bamboo. It would suggest someone greatly interested in nursing or medical professions. In the second, talks about positions. Just happy times being spent in the company of another. Okay, so that's all very positive. And fire. Wonder where I find that. Number 6, fire. So that's not 6 of bamboos. Here we go. 6 of 1, fire. Inspiration and danger. That so totally matches the hexagram we just pulled. Fire is the 3rd of the 5th elements in Chinese philosophy, representing the personal attributes of intelligence and inspiration. Yet all of the cards which comprise the Mahjong oracle, this is the card that gives the gravest warning of danger. It indicates the burning up of resources, mental, physical and financial, and in combination with certain cards is foreboding of accident to personal property. At the centre, fire is almost a sign of danger. It is a direct indication that the querent may be on guard, must be on guard. In response to any query, it is a sign that there are other sides to the issue that have not been considered. Whatever the involvement, the querent should go carefully over all the aspects of the problem to see what vital factor has now been neglected. However, if the question has been one regarding a choice of career, it indicates the chemical or fuel industries, as it represents intelligence. It is also a favourable response to questions regarding educational prospects. So if you want to go and study, it's very good for that. Positive aspects of... So in the East, it talks about positions. So it's intelligence. Yeah. So fire in its good aspects is intelligence and action, and it's good for if you want to work in chemical or fuel industries, but it also carries with it much danger. I guess that's right. You know, with petrol, you can use it to burn down your house or to drive your car. That's the kind of vibe with that. So I guess the danger with this is burning out, maybe. If you got this hexagram 35 here, which is all about, you know, making huge progress and doing lots of work and burning brightly. And then you've got the 12 after it, which is stagnation and disjunction. It's like totally overdoing whatever it is, going too far. Burning out, potentially, could be a danger. I mean, that's particularly in combination with those Mahjong cards. Alright. So, let's throw a hexagram for if you stay. If the viewer chooses to stay. Dear Sage. I'll change colour of pens so that we can read this. Alright. So I've got 2 heads and a tail, that's a yin line. If the viewer stays, that was a moving yang line, 3 heads. 2 heads and a tail, that's another yin line. Now we've got 2 heads and a tail, that's another yin line. Now I have same again. Okay, and now we have a yang line not moving. Alright, so this hexagram is hexagram number 4, which is youthful folly. Alright, and then it changes to hexagram 23, which is splitting apart. So I'm going to say straight up that this is not looking good for staying. As dangerous as leaving kind of looks, staying kind of looks worse. And I'll explain why in a sec. So it's not going to be smooth sailing either way. Although, I guess... yeah, no, because splitting apart has, which is number 23, no moving lines. That's not a very good omen. Okay, so... I'll just explain a little bit, we'll give you a sort of quick overview before I start reading. Hexagram number 4 is just like the sage saying, you silly student, I have told you once, I've told you twice, and now you go and ask me again, like you're not paying attention. And it's sort of like, I can't make you learn the lesson, you know, and if you keep bothering me, I'm going to turn away from you. And then hexagram 23, which is usually called something along the lines of splitting apart or disintegration or something like that. Basically all the yin elements, which in this situation represents people with even, like yin isn't necessarily bad, but in this situation it is, because it's like all the people of weak character are working on overthrowing the one last person with principles who's left in the situation. So it's about to be a total downfall, basically because there's 5 people of bad character and only one good person. Only one person who's behaving in an honourable fashion, and the 5 people with weak character are setting out to ostracize or take down or whatever the one person who is honest left in the situation. It doesn't have to be people. If it was a house, I should show you. I can't get up because I'm... pussy. I was going to say I'm incapacitated. Excuse me, pussy. I just got to show the viewer. Let's see, just here. So, number 23, that's like the roof of the house there, that strong line there, and these are like the walls. And it could be like a situation where the white ants are now up into the roof of the house. It's a situation where something is being undermined. So it's basically, it's falling apart, whatever it is, or it's being taken down, or it's rotting away. It's like, whatever's going on, there's not much rot more to go, and it's completely rotted. So anyway, we'll read number 4 and number 23 from the book so that you can get the official word. So number 4, so this is about if you stay in whatever this thing is that you're questioning, that you clicked on the reading for. Okay. Man, youthful ignorance. From the deep at the foot of the mountain a spring issues. The man is resolute and takes care of himself. I do not seek the ignorant. The ignorant seek me. I will instruct them. This is what the sage is saying. I will instruct them. I ask nothing but sincerity, so that God is willing to help you, but you've got to be sincere, which means, and that means being able to take instruction. So maybe you're asking the question, but you're not really taking in the answer. Then the sage is sort of going to try and answer you a couple of times, and then it's just going to turn his back on you until your attitude improves, or until you wake up and take in the information that you've already been given. So, I will instruct them. I ask nothing but sincerity. If they come out of habit, they become troublesome. Success if you are firm. Interpretation. The attitude of the oracle to you is good-humoured, patronising. Your innocence excuses everything. You make faux pas that would humiliate most people. You make mistakes that would ruin others. But because of your youthful innocence, your ignorance only amuses and refreshes those against whom you blunder. This is the hexagram of beginner's luck. The neophyte who wins in card games, makes a killing in the market, wins the heart of the reticent lady, creates primitive beauty that speaks universally, etc. You are this kind of inexperienced, innocent person in your present situation. So, just to elaborate on that, because it says you are an inexperienced person in this present situation, and this is for staying. So this is a situation you're already in, but apparently there's something you don't know about this situation that you're in already, that you're thinking of leaving. There's something you've missed about this situation, right? So you are this kind of inexperienced, innocent. So much of what you achieved with beginner's luck. Or, yeah. So, ignorant of accepted stratagems and theories, you are less limited in your action. Unfamiliar with the conventions of the situation, you plunge right in and deal with people as individuals. As long as you retain this innocence, everything you do will be either successful or excused, even your repetitive demands of the I Ching. Karma. This is the hexagram of the innocent goatherd Daphnis. So, yeah, it's a bit of a, like all of the things that you read in the I Ching, it's got its positive and light side. So on the positive side, you know, you're the innocent fool who's skipping through the tulips, tiptoeing through the tulips or whatever. But on the negative side, you're like the fool who is going off the cliff, about to crash into the ground or whatever. So this is the hexagram of the innocent goatherd Daphnis. Where the friend is like Chloe, as innocent as you, or heartily sophisticated as Daphne's guide in the practice of love. What kind of a word is that? Lycanian. I don't think that word. That word isn't in my other interpretation. I'm sure I've got this same book, another copy of it. I don't think this word is there. I'm going to have to look that up and check that. So this word, Lacanian. Daphne's guide in the practice of... Oh, that's somebody's name. Right, okay. That's the name of Daphne's guide, is Lacanium. Your relationship will be happy and constantly renewed with sweet pleasure. Moksha. Your spiritual innocence, your lack of metaphysics and religious metaphor endear you to those from whom you seek enlightenment. They may find you frustrating as well. You have the same kind of holy innocence exhibited by the cook in Po Chang Zen Monastery. In order to determine his own successor, Po Chang asked his pupils to express the essential nature of a particular picture. The monks gave various verbal and indirect answers. The cook approached the picture and kicked it to the floor, breaking it, and he was named Po Chang's successor. With the proper teacher, you can reach enlightenment in your present state of freshness and innocence. It is more likely that you will eventually become involved in one of the systems of images, ideas, and practices that make up the longer and more conventional paths to spiritual freedom. Right, so that's mostly all the positive side of it. But in some interpretations, there's definitely the negative side of you being a fool. Like the negative connotations of the fool, not the positive connotations, the happy sort of connotations. Okay. So this is actually coming out a little bit better than what I initially thought. Because you get hexagram line 2, which says, the man puts up with the ignorant and has a way with women, but he can fill his father's shoes when the time comes. Auspicious. With your inexperience and ignorance, you are still open-minded enough to deal warmly and patiently with fools. Fools who cannot claim your excuse of youthful innocence, and who are generally scorned and avoided by others. Your innocence gives you away with the opposite sex and protects you from any unpleasant complications. Although inexperienced, you have the steady character and native intelligence to be able to take on grave responsibilities when the right time comes. This is the line of Prince Hal. So you could end up being the successor in some situation. Okay. Just through dumb luck, partly. But then it changes to 23, which we will get to in a minute. I will just read, and it just happened to open up on page 23. Okay, so if you stay, this one calls it youthful folly. A new lesson. You are learning something you never knew before. So if you stay, you're still getting new lessons. It's not going to be the same as before. It is not I who seeks the young fool seeks me. This hexagram explains the relationship between the sage who speaks through the I Ching and the follower who consults it. The sage will speak through the oracle and come to our aid only when we have the correct attitude. That is, we have willingly suspended our disbelief and distrust of the unknown. If we are skeptical, indifferent, cynical, hostile, cross-examining, the answers will be unintelligible, as the sage remains in retirement. To the extent that we hedge in suspending our disbelief, we block the sage's help, for it is against his principles to respond to anything less than the humility of an open mind. Because he is firmly committed to what is good, he will not throw himself away by seeking our approval, nor will he attempt by persuasion to overcome our predetermined views of how the cosmos works and what is good and bad, or the nature of God and fate, however erroneous those ideas may be. So, the sage just lets you have free will to go and try these wrong ideas out until you run into a brick wall and realise it's not working for you. Right? In approaching the sage, we should take care to rid ourselves of predetermined ideas which prevent learning. We may be afraid that his reply might upset our defences, or that we'll be unable to face the truth about some situation. In the folly of spiritual youth, we fail to realise that learning the truth always lightens our load by lifting away the oppressive burdens of fear and doubt. To study with the sage and the I Ching is to be permitted to see life from a cosmic viewpoint. At the conclusion of each lesson, we gain a cosmic insight. Whether we can consult the I Ching daily or occasionally, its answers concern the next step in our understanding. Each new lesson entails a new beginning with its characteristic difficulties. The problem put before us for solving during each lesson generally provides the circumstances by which the lesson may be worked out. The lesson is concluded when we understand the problem from the cosmic viewpoint. Oh, look, this is going to go on for a long time. I'm not going to read all of that. I'm going to go straight to the second line because it will just take too long. The main point of this that you need to know is second line. To bear with fools in kindliness brings good fortune. The son is capable of taking charge of the household. This image refers to the son taking the father's place only when he has learned to govern from inner truth. Knowing the difficulty of correcting his own weaknesses, he is capable of viewing others' mistakes and weaknesses, especially those who have not developed themselves with chivalry. So you're going to have to put up with some fools. Maybe it's not just saying that you're got a bit of youthful folly, that it might be youthful folly to stay, but it's also saying that if you're going to stay, there's some fools that you will have to bear with in a chivalrous manner, because they're just not on your level of development. Right? It is important to be modest and kind, not proud and vindictive. So the fact that it says that implies that they're going to test you, because you've got to want to be proud and vindictive, because obviously they're annoying. Until we have achieved such modesty and kindness in the face of challenges, we are not capable of drawing others to the correct path by our example. Okay, nobody's going to, you've got to be able to walk the talk, otherwise nobody's going to believe you or follow you or whatever. You have to embody what you want to other people to take on. Bearing with fools and kindliness can also mean bearing with things our inferiors hate. Thus, bear with bad streaks of bad luck, bad situations, and whatever comes, however inappropriate it may be. It is true modesty not to be deterred by bad chance. As in playing tennis, we should immediately forget the bad shots, the mistakes, and concentrate on readiness for the next shots, through keeping disengaged from inner dialogues. Even labelling the shots as bad or good has a negative effect, upsetting our equilibrium. In the elevated cosmic view, everything good and bad is really as it needs to be for our self-development. Right. So, we already read that. So next we go to hexagram 23, splitting apart. Okay, in this book it calls it collapse. So the situation is going to collapse, potentially. Or, okay, well let's just read it and see the proper interpretation. Collapse. The mountain rests on the earth. The superior man strengthens his support in order to maintain his position. Take no action whatsoever. You are off balance. The predominant forces in your life emanate from outside you. They are pressing on you from many sides. They are earthbound, materialistic, self-perpetuating. Whatever imaginative, spiritual, independent force you have weakens daily. The image of the mountain on the earth symbolizes the proper response to your situation. Absolute stillness. Go nowhere. Do nothing. If you can assist others in realizing their own material goals, you can hold to your own. Discord, caused by conflicts, selfish desires, has brought you and friend to the point of parting. Only if you quell your emotions and your expectation is there any chance the relationship will continue. So it's pretty much saying it's fairly broken anyway. The stay situation is on the verge of breaking. So, discord caused by conflicting selfish desires has brought you and friend to the point of parting, which is, I guess, is why you're asking, should I stay or should I go? Only if you quell your emotions and your expectation is there any chance the relationship will continue. Moksha. Your spiritual path is overgrown with weeds of bad karma. All your rituals, sacrifices, and meditations and revelations are infused with non-spiritual desires and materialistic ideals. Cease your spiritual practice. By ceasing your spiritual practice, perhaps you can rid yourself of the selfish needs that are feeding on it. Then again, perhaps not. So that's for staying. It's not good atmosphere or good people. And the situation's on the point of breaking. Let's read this hexagram here, splitting apart. So if you do stay, so if you do choose to stay, it's saying you have to do nothing. Like you can actually find your way through the bad situation, but it will require you doing absolutely nothing. Like, because nothing is bad forever. So if you do choose to stay, you're going to have to put up with a lot of fools and do nothing. And wait for the situation to sort of play out a cycle, I guess, and improve on its own. So here's the other interpretation, the Carol Anthony interpretation, which it calls it splitting apart here for hexagram 23. Disbelief in the power of non-action or in the power of just being. It does not further one to go anywhere. Doubt and fear have already caused us to split from our path or threaten to do so. The primary doubt is whether we will achieve our goal through following the path of docility and inaction, and simply clinging to the power of truth to correct the situation through letting it in our attitude. Okay, so if you do decide to stay, then you have to let the cosmos deal with this situation that's caused you to want to leave. Because any efforts you make of your own accord are going to end up just making matters worse. Oh, excuse me. The primary doubt is whether we will achieve our goal through following the path of docility and inaction, and by simply clinging to the power of truth to correct the situation through letting it in our attitude. We are afraid to allow matters to take their course. We think we have to influence the situation through some action or plan. Even to contemplate intervention is to split apart from our path. When we split from our true path, we turn matters over to the inferior man and the inferiors. We often receive this hexagram when we think we must arm ourselves against a situation which will be embarrassing, will compromise our principles, or lead to new difficulties. To take preventative action or even contemplate doing so is to split apart. Okay, so if you decide to stay, you can't do anything. You just have to stay still for a little while till it sorts itself out. We need instead to trust that we will receive the protection we need, for as long as we insist on defending ourselves, the higher power will leave us to our own devices. Through distrust, we isolate ourselves from help. Whatever we do through our own devices will prove to be either inadequate or defective, so that at worst we will have had a destructive effect, or at best we will have prevented the situation from progressing. Going with the flow way enables the creative to do its work. So if you stay, you're going to have to let go and let God. Splitting apart can also refer to times when we lose our conscientiousness and drift into abandoning our responsibilities. Abandonment occurs when we let people go, but not in kindliness, as is put in Youthful Folly, hexagram 4. Okay, so that directly relates to the previous hexagram. We should bear with fools in kindliness. Okay, so if you stay, you're going to have to put up with these fools in kindliness. Which implies there's a fair few fools around and that is not necessarily going to be an easy thing to do. Abandonment also occurs when we're able to give people up. Sorry, wait a minute. Let me read that correctly. Abandonment also occurs when we give people up as unable to rescue themselves, or when we think they will never relate properly to us. We also receive this hexagram when we have returned to the correct path after having split apart from it. This hexagram may refer to other people splitting from their paths. During such times, we should submit and take no action or role. Instead, we should be docile, go our own way, and leave the evil thing to collapse of itself. Even though those from whom we disengage may suffer adversities, the adversities will provide them with the opportunities needed to learn what is correct. The superior man does not fear adversity. He understands that it is often the only means by which we may grow and correct decadent attitudes towards life. Thus, life, with its adversity, is the workplace for developing our higher consciousness. This does not mean, of course, that we should court adversity or be glad when others have it. Adversity is to be avoided if possible, but when it does occur, we should view it moderately and derive every possible lesson from it, so as to avoid needing to have the lessons repeated. Okay, so if you stay, there is going to be adversity, and fools to put up with. And it can be overcome, but you all have to be very, very incredibly patient while God tic-tacs creatively to fix the situation. And you just have to let God fix it if you're going to stay. So it's not necessarily saying go or stay, although it is saying if you stay, then you're gonna have to learn a lesson, and there's some adversity to sit through while other people learn their lessons. Okay, 2 Mahjong cards. We'll take them as uprights for staying. What is some of the energy around staying for the viewer? Please, Sage, speak through the Mahjong for the highest good of all here. For the highest good of the viewer. Okay. The energy around staying. Swords. 2 of swords. Or 2 swords. But it's not like tarot. It's slightly different to the 2 of swords in tarot. Okay. If, for the querent, if they choose to stay, what energy does that come with? What will be attached to that? Okay, one jumped out there. Water. So one's fire and one's water. So water is about emotions. And what's the 2 of swords about? I'll have to see. Circles, 1. Here we go. The double-edged sword, okay, is the symbol of the quandary and decision. Okay, wow, this is really interesting. So it immediately references this card that we had on the other side, the duck. Whereas two bamboo duck shows a partnership and the joining together of two people. The one for staying, two swords, signifies the opposite, severance, which is exactly what splitting apart is about. This is so consistent. This reading is really congruent with itself, which is nice. Like, it's giving good, strong indicators for that energy of going, it's like the oracle totally agrees with itself. The Mahjong agrees with the Ching, which, that's good. It's a good, strong indicator that's a differentiator. Let's say that's the going energy is very different from the energy of staying. And the energy of staying involves splitting apart, signifies the opposite, severance. So maybe you're not going to be able to stay even if you want to, potentially. There's that possibility too. Severance. There can be no progress while there are still two. The situation will be a stalemate until some move is made. The sword represents the element metal, and its appropriate colour is white. Its season autumn and its direction west. The sword as the centre card shows the querent faced with a dilemma. A crossroads has been reached. One road must be chosen or it will be impossible to travel further. Therefore, in order to make progress, some sacrifice has to be made. The dilemma usually revolves around whether the sacrifice will be worth it. As an answer to a particular question, the sword does not tell the querent which direction to take, only that a choice has to be made. In other cases, the sword may reveal the cutting away of ties and release from contractual and other obligations. You might not have a choice. The situation where you're thinking of staying might be disintegrating with or without you, potentially. Or you might have to leave regardless of whether you want to stay or go. But if you do stay, you're going to have to make a clear decision, or someone's going to have to make a clear decision, and you're also going to have to let go and let God in some way. Well, a bunch of fools who don't really understand you, you're going to have to endure them and be kind to them and patient with them in a way that may be frustrating, and you have to be reminded to be kind. Like when you have to be reminded to be kind, that to me says that you're going to be challenged because people are naturally friendly and kind until something difficult happens, and that's when it becomes challenging to be friendly and kind. Okay, so the sword does not tell the querent which direction to take, only that a choice has to be made. In other cases, the sword may reveal the cutting away of ties and release from contractual or other obligations. Positive aspects. The sword represents the bonds being severed and restrictions lifted, providing release at last. There is a strong link between this card and the knot. If the knot is followed by the sword anywhere in the spread, it represents the severing of ties, and in this respect may signify resignation from employment, separation of a partnership, or emigration, like leaving your country. Any kind of weighty, irrevocable decision. So I'm going to read the negative aspect. Wait a minute. separation of apartment, emigration, any kind of weighty, irrevocable decision. In the East, it represents diplomacy and fairness. Now, negative aspects. Strictly speaking, the sword has neither positive nor negative aspects. It directs the querent to be aware of problems, particularly the difficulties which have to be faced trying to make two things out of one. Perhaps time is being wrongly allocated or loyalty shared or in some way attention is not being given to the things that are at the moment of great importance. As a negative personal characteristic, it represents hypocrisy and insincerity. Right. And water. So let's find out what water has to say. I think, there we go. Correspondence and travel. The element water signifies communication. This may be in the form of correspondence or travel. So even if you stay, you still may be travelling. Okay, so more often it refers to frequent short journeys such as the regular commuting rather than lengthy single journey, which is sometimes signified by the carp. Okay, so if you stay, you're going to be possibly going back and forth, like going to work back and forth or whatever. Lots of small travelling trips. Okay. But if the water card is repeated in different sectors of the spread, for example, the north and south sectors, it suggests the crossing of water. If water appears with the west, it indicates a visitor from a foreign country. In any cases where the question concerns travel, correspondence, or documentation, examine the adjoining cards to determine what other factors are liable to exert an influence on the situation. Centre card. The water card gives a positive response to any question regarding travel. It is also linked with health and healing, so that the question regarding health receives a favourable reply in other matters. Water as the centre card indicates journeys and frequent correspondence will be involved in order to achieve one's aims. It is a sign of international travel. In choice of career, anything involving communication and dealings with people on a personal level will prove to be successful. Positive aspects. Water is one of the 5 elements of Chinese philosophy, associated with water in the direction north and the tortoise 7 bamboo. The element water produces wood and so reveals good fortune when it appears next to any cards regarded as belonging to the element of wood, such as the willow 9 bamboo, the pine circles, or the peach, none of which you have. Negative aspects. The combination of the Chinese character for water with that of fire produces a character for calamity. Water and fire are not harmonious. A combination with water with fire is an indication of danger. Examine the other cards in context to see the time factor involved or the relevant circumstances. Caution is then advisable. Okay. Well, it does seem to be challenging whichever way you go. But there's definitely a feeling of stagnation and difficulty with staying. Like, in the sense of it's the same old, yet you're going to learn, and maybe, like, if you don't learn the lesson last time, you have to go through it again. It's kind of the thing with youthful folly. you will keep getting the same lesson over and over again until you learn it. I'm getting that there could be legal troubles because it talks a lot about correspondence, and then you've got this swords and the separation energy and the splitting apart and all that. So could be potential legal hassles there. That's one. Or divorce, or having to balance things out, and having to wait for balance to be restored with staying, having to let go and let God and deal with a lot of annoying, foolish people. It doesn't actually sound like a lot of fun. But if you do decide you want to stay, the trick would be to do nothing and let God figure it out and fix it. If you're going to go, then there's going to be a lot of rapid progress at first and a lot of inspiration and all of that. But then there's a potential of overindulgence, danger of burning out, or being surrounded by people who are basically just want to use you for your resources, which is possibly the problem you had with staying. So I'm going to say it's just kind of a sign of the times that we're in. Wherever you go, there's people who just want to be greedy and try and drain you of your resources, whether they be financial resources, emotional resources, or whatever. Your time, your energy. That is a real thing. I feel like I need one more card to wrap this up. I'm going to pull one overall card from the Crystal Oracle because it just doesn't feel quite complete. There's definitely difficulties in staying. If you decide to stay, you're going to need the patience of a saint by the looks of it. And if you decide to go, then I think initially it's going to be all right, but then you're going to deal with the same kind of problems down the track potentially. Maybe it's something you're going to have to work on within yourself so that you don't attract these people who are materialistic and shallow and selfish, greedy and dishonest, vicious, vulgar, and willing to do whatever it takes to deplete you of what they want from you. It seems to be a danger either way. The situation of staying, the other people there, there's definitely a lot of foolishness and arguing in the situation that you're thinking of staying in. The situation you're going to is more like the danger of excess, like too much partying or too much indulgence, too much, not enough sleeping or working, just being too greedy with people around you, possibly being too superficial in their values and judging you and needing to sort of, maybe after an initial time of being out there and here I am and isn't this a lot of fun, needing to pull yourself in because you become the target of attack potentially by petty people. So it looks like wherever you go there's going to be petty people, but if you go then at least you get a break from them for a while, whereas if you stay then the struggle continues for some time and you have to be very patient with these people who are going to make you not feel like being kind towards them. So you're going to have to practice your kindness and your good-humoured acceptance that they're just not on your level while they do their shenanigans around you and it all fucking, falls apart. I didn't say that, did I really? Can I bleep that? how they make you feel, I think. They're going to make you feel like bleeping. One card, please, just as an overall to tie this up. As we consider all of this, the viewer, one more card for what will help them make the decision or to take on board in making the decision. Or what do they need to know? Just one card to help. Here we go. Oh, we got two. Two cards jumped out. So, we're running low on time, so I'll just tell you what I know about these cards. Preonite, basically saying, chill out, like, this is green, this is a bit of heart healing coming your way. And you will soon find yourself like floating on a boat down the river, not literally, but that feeling of things going smoothly and nicely. I actually really like preonite. Is that how you say it? Preonite. Preonite. It's a good energy. Profound spiritual love, protection, prophetic vision. Okay, so this is overall what you need to know. You're about to gain profound spiritual insight in the form of a prophetic vision, which appears to you in your dreams or at a time which you least expect it. Through this, this is going to help you know, I see. Through this, you realize that the heart of the matter, only love exists, and our perceptions of good and evil are simply human illusion. A deep inner knowing will swell from within you, and you will realize that all is literally bathed in love. Nothing can ever harm you or have a negative effect on you apart from your own fears. Through this experience, you will have no doubt that a higher force does exist, and through this higher force, all is possible. As you begin to trust in the universal power of love to guide you, your life will take on greater meaning and purpose. Well, that's very nice, isn't it? And the smoky quartz one is saying someone's shedding tears right now. There's a healing taking place right at this very moment. A healing is taking place. Maybe somebody you had difficulty with. Smoky quartz. You are. Can you hear the cat purring? Cat's purring very loud. The beautiful smoky quartz crystal has appeared in your reading today to help you release and express the many emotions that you have kept suppressed for quite some time. There is an emotional cause to all physical symptoms, so know that by acknowledging and expressing how you feel, you allow healing to occur. I should look at you, shouldn't I? Do not be afraid to cry, for your tears will wash away your sadness and restore your emotional, mental, physical well-being. There is a jewel to be found in every teardrop. Trust. This card signifies that a healing is occurring right now. Emotional blockage, negative thoughts, release, grounding, protection. So that's grief, I think, really. I mean, it's not just grief, but I think even the fact that you have to consider whether you want to go or stay implies that, you know, there's some emotions there to be processed. Otherwise, you would be clear already. So probably once you process these emotions and heal some of these feelings, you're going to be much more clearer and feel more protected and okay to continue on your journey. That's all we have for today, dear friends. I'm incapacitated. I'm gonna get up and switch this this thing off here, the recording button. I hope that you get something out of this. There's a lot of reading in this reading. There's definitely progress if you go, and if you stay, there's lessons to be learned and a lot of patience. It's not saying that a good outcome is not possible, but the only good outcome possible if you stay is if you let God sort it out. There's nothing you can do personally to improve the situation, and there's a chance it might end anyway. But if you are going to stay, you have to trust God to sort it out for you. There's nothing you can do to fix it. So if that's what you choose, you're going to have to let God fix it for you. If you go, you have to watch out for overindulgence and superficial, the same kind probably same kind of people that you had to move away from. These superficial, vulgar, greedy, materialistic, unspiritual people who like to lie and cheat and steal, and they're only interested in the appearance of things rather than forming true character. You will have to avoid them sooner or later in your journey again anyway, you know. They're everywhere. So once you shine your light and everything in your new situation, I guess you get a bit of a breathing space for a while where you get to shine your light. But eventually, these grumpy people who have got nothing better to do with their lives than trying to steal from others or compare themselves to others or whatever, they're everywhere, and eventually they do tune into you, and you will have to go inwards and be patient for a while if you move forward as well. So just looking at this right now as a parting thought, that there's going to be patience required either way, in the second half of staying or in the second half of going. There's a period of patience and putting up with these people and just protecting yourself from these people who don't have good sound characters, who don't, probably don't believe in karma and have to find out the hard way. Yeah. Do you really want to go back and do the same lessons again? Or, you might even have to learn the harder way this time if you do stay, potentially. It's not saying that the situation's unsolvable, but it is in a state of decay right now. So you'll probably have to wait for it to complete its cycle before it can become good again. Yeah. I hope you get something out of that. I hope that helps you clarify your decision. If you made it this far through the video, good on you. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate your engagement, your likes, your comments, your subscribes. Even somebody might even donate something one more day. You never know. Thank you very much.